We're going to talk about transportation of dairy cattle today, and in that process we're going to talk about some ways to handle those dairy cattle that will improve the way they load on a trailer, the way we can transport them to market or to other facilities, and trying to make sure that we do so in a low stress manner. The first principle we need to keep in mind is that cattle like to be able to see you. Secondly, cattle want to be able to go around you, and that's in part so they can keep their eye on you. Third thing is that cattle like to be able to go with and be with other cattle. The fourth thing is cattle like to go back to where they just came from. The last thing we have to think about as we go to handling livestock, they can only think of one main thing at a time. And if they're distracted by movement, noise, or the other issues, whether it be facilities or your location in dealing with those cattle, it makes your job more difficult. As we approach a set of cattle, it's important to think about how they're going to react when we get in the pen. Part of that has to do with their flight zone or their ability to move away from you or willingness to move away from you. If you notice, as I walked up here, these cows have started to back up just a little bit. So I want to take advantage of that as well and let them know that I understand how they're going to react. Then this is where I'm going to start basically the training process, is getting these cattle to move away from me. I'm just going to step into them, give them a chance to move away, and I'm just training on them right now. And if they don't move, I'm going to put a little more pressure on them. I want them to move away from me, but I don't want to startle. I'm going to move in, move out. Now the next thing I'm going to do is the cattle need to be able to go by me without hesitating. And this is something that I'm going to push them away from me and take advantage of that principle. They want to go back where they just came from. So as I walk up these cattle, they're all turned to face me because they want to see me. That's one of those principles. So now I've got to get them to change their mind. Put a little pressure on them. I'll use this heifer to start turning these others around. Now I don't want to stress them too much. I'll back off till they're ready. Now I'm going to let them come by me. This is that part about going around. This little heifer got them to pull down there, so I'm going to take and push these on down a little bit more. Step back and let the rest of them decide they want to go with them. As they get lined out, then I'm going to put pressure on them. Once again, once they start, that's all I want them to do. Now I'm just going to bring them around, send them back up the other way. Now see, they're wanting to go back where they just came from, even easier this time. Don't get to playing too much. The time I took to go through these little cattle and get them to where they knew that I wanted them to move away from me is important. After that, then they know what I'm asking them to do, and hopefully I can get them to come around here and let me load them in this trailer in a very low stress fashion, rather than having to get too rough with them. But you could try a lot of different things here. Like I said, obviously these cattle are not moving very well, so we're going to have to resort to some other technique to get them in there. Just straighten them out, girl. Find a place to get. We had a little bit more trouble loading those heifers than I'd like to have, but as you look at the trailer, it's quiet. The cattle aren't fighting. That's the end objective you'd like to have, is the cattle to be on the trailer and be quiet and be ready to go to town. Well, as we were loading the cattle today, there were several things I think came up that everybody needs to be aware of. And as a stranger walked into this set of cattle, they did not respond to me that they would, in particular Roger here, who works with the cattle quite a bit. And as we're trying to use the principles, it worked really well up to got to the point we couldn't put the pressure on the cattle and get them to step up in a clean, fresh trailer that they weren't used to. But as we looked at trying to adapt, then that's what you have to do. If it doesn't work as textbook, you have to adapt and figure out what's going to work. And this little set of cattle, we had to figure out, we had to get them to where we could kind of confine them and then get them lined out. And as Josh stepped toward the front of them from that hole over there we were plugging, that actually helped. I think from that standpoint, you need to take home that cattle get used to a routine. They get used to certain people handling those cattle, and it does make a difference. If somebody different comes in a barn, it probably affects milk production as well if it changes that environment. So the cattle have to know what you're asking them to start with, and be willing to work for whoever is going to be loading those cattle or moving them to the parlor or whatever they might be doing. But to me, the thing that I learned today is these cattle are probably a little more prone to resist if they don't know you. In some of the cattle I've been in, that's not been an issue. But in these cattle, they really didn't want to do anything until somebody got involved with the process that they knew and trusted. And that kind of goes back to that whole way we handle cattle. And it's obvious that as you stepped out or y'all stepped to them, they trusted y'all and would step on a trailer. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's something we all need to think about, is if we're getting somebody else to handle our livestock, it may take more force and some things to load them than we're used to. Did y'all have any comments relative to the way we loaded those cattle? It was obvious that it wasn't working the way I was trying it, but we had to step forward and figure out what would work.
But like you said, the fact that the cattle weren't used to you, and as soon as Roger and I had stepped in, you know, they're a familiar face, and they could trust us, and you know, then they cooperated.
Even the tone of your voice, you know, is a big thing that cows pick up on.
Yeah.
And they know what you mean by your tones of voice, just like dogs do. It's the same thing.
The other thing that I was proud of myself was I realized when I needed help. What I was trying to do wasn't working. So I asked you to get over on the other side, would position you more up on the front. Then as we realized that Roger come around and brought that trailer gate around, and they could hear his voice, they'd step on the trailer.
And you stayed calm and didn't get excited.
Yeah.
Was the main thing.
Yeah, and you know, I could have really thrown a hissy fit in there and got abusive and hot shots and probably got them on the trailer, but that trailer had been shaking as we left with the cattle too.
Yep.